Okay, Joe Ryman, head of our genealogy research. And so we had a dedication, and Elder Scott was nice enough to come and wore his suit coat, they never give that up. And Roxana Porter was one of the wives of Winslow. And so tomorrow, we'll just go out and kind of look at the monument, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about the Farrs in Vermont. And I'm just gonna preview that a little bit because it'll be hard to stand out there for a long time. There's Nina Palmer. She'll be with us on Saturday, Elder Scott's sister-in-law. She's been a big worker and supporter of ours. Really wonderful, okay?
What was his wife's, Brother Scott's wife's maiden name?
Janine was his wife.
I know, but what was her maiden name?
Watkins.
Oh, Watkins?
Yeah, she was came down through the Rich family. Okay, so in Vermont, the Farrs, you know the story, the Farrs were in Vermont, and they were in Lower Waterford. Elijah Freeman, anybody know who that is?
Father
Yeah.
Huh?
Great.
Olive's mother.
Olive's father.
Oh, Ollie's father, and who was Ollie's mother? This is a test.
Oh,
Wow.
We're gonna meet her, sometime.
yeah, better know more stuff.
She was Olive too. Okay, that's not fair.
Olive
Lots of
had
reasons.
olives.
See,
Now, who was Winslow's father? Anybody know?
Benjamin?
Wait, who's down through Ashel?
Ace.
You guys are, yeah, his
Yeah.
name was Ashel.
It's not,
That's where your ancestor got his name, probably.
right, right.
And so Ashel was married to Lydia. These names all tie in together.
Farr.
Snow.
Snow.
oh, that's right.
So in
Snows.
Vermont, we had the Snows, the Binghams, the Farrs, the Browns, a whole group, okay? And so, and you'll remember the story, we're gonna tell some of these on the bus, so I'm gonna really crank through it, outline. But Orson Pratt and Lyman Johnson came across the Canadian border. The Farr family started in, anybody been to Waterford? You gotta go sometimes. Beautiful.
What state is that? Is that Connecticut or Vermont?
Northern Vermont. And in Waterford, that's where Olive and Winslow, but there wasn't a lot of choices.
Small town.
So they met and they married. And they started to have children. And they had first who?
John
John. What happened to him?
died.
He died. Who was next?
Aaron.
See, you didn't know this was going to be a test.
You told me I was
Lauren.
studying.
Aaron?
Aaron.
Lauren?
Lauren.
Okay.
Diantha.
No,
No,
Olive came before
Olive.
that. Okay.
And Winslow.
And then, and then Winslow. Then Lauren. Then Diantha. And then Winslow.
Yes.
Okay, so people in those days, what did they do for a living?
Farm.
They farmed, right? And, manual labor. Okay, Elijah Freeman had a position in the Waterford political arena. He was, kind of a land officer. And he also belonged to the Congregational Church, but he had issues with them, so he didn't go to church. So Elijah Freeman studied the scriptures, he knew them, believed in the testimony of the prophets in both the Old and New Testament. And Lauren Farr remembers one time that Elijah Freeman sat with Winslow and Olive. He was in a rocking chair by them, Lauren, he was 11 years old. And Elijah Freeman said to Winslow and Olive, the church as described in the New Testament, with all the offices and the signs and everything in the New Testament was going to be restored. He didn't think it would be in his time, but he said it may be in your time. And so to Lauren, who looked a lot like Elijah and had kind of that, well, forward, fun, humorous, go-get-em personality that he inherited from Elijah. He said he was like a John the Baptist to Lauren. Okay. So, they moved from Lower Waterford North to Charleston, which is 20 miles south of the Canadian border. And they went in there, he acquired, it was 1828, and I think Elijah had died by then. And there, if you ever go to Lower Waterford, the Lower Waterford Cemetery is beautiful. And we restored a monument there that I think I can show you if I can, I may have to go to Apple one of these days. People keep telling me.
I'm going to remain silent.
Wait a minute,
But you know
it's
my-
working. Shh, I figured it out.
Good deal.
That is the monument. Bruce Lloyd, he's our chairperson. His mother, Mary Lou Lloyd, was in Sharon on a mission. She and her husband, we raised $1,000, and we rebuilt the monument. And so there's
Nice.
a show and Lydia. So we tie into the Snows. Erastus Snow, who was he?
He's the apostle.
Yeah.
So Maisel, how come along the way the H got dropped?
Yeah. Well,
What age?
they had to change something, You know
Okay.
what I mean? Okay, I lost it again.
Oh, it was in the first name or last name?
Yeah.
The first
In
name.
the
First
first
name.
name, Maisel, the Aisel Farr, ice cream Aisel Farr does not have.
Okay, but back there you see the Lower Waterford,
Nice.
Reservoir.
the Connecticut River, sorry. Okay, it's beautiful there. Anyway, if you get a chance, go there, you guys. I mean, it's just terrific. Okay. Yeah, I thought I had it for a minute there. Sorry. Okay, so anyway, they go to Charleston, and he has 2,000 acres. And the elders come across, and they preach in the schoolhouse that Winslow obtained for them. Okay, and so, what happened after that?
Why did
Can you tell me a
They came
story?
home to dinner and
They invited Orson home.
discovered that Olive was infirm and expected to die within the year. And they asked if they could speak with her and asked her if she believed in Jesus Christ and the ability to be healed by faith. And she said she did. So they
So-
pronounced a blessing on her. And she jumped up out of bed and cleaned
Oh
the
my
house and
gosh.
made dinner for them.
Why did she have to clean the house first?
Because that's what women do.
Yeah, but the guys were running it.
That's exactly why she had to get up and clean the house.
Now, she could say that. We
That was
couldn't.
it. That
That's
was
right.
true.
That would have been a
Okay,
good
That's
I
right.
think- Okay, so basically, anyway, then, then the family, much against the neighbor's recommendation, came west, okay.
And didn't the doctors say that if you live for a year, we'll join the church?
1 year. I don't know if any
I
doctor
wish somebody would have followed
ever
up
did.
on the doctors. See
Yeah,
if
we
it
should
even
ask
did.
them.
Well, a lot of the townspeople joined after
Yeah,
that
that's
Yeah,
true, yeah.
We should really, really ask them, okay?
Yeah, a lot of people said that
Okay.
if she remained healed,
For a year.
that they would join the church.
So I think tomorrow we'll just go out, okay, to the cemetery and we'll walk around, we'll talk a little bit about the family, but it's not gonna be any, I don't wanna keep people out there, really getting hot and
Yeah.
whatnot.
I love to hear these
Oh, you
stories.
wanna
This
hear
was
this one? Okay.
it's a great little story. It's all about miraculous things that happen in people's life. Heber was the oldest child of Susan Melvina Bingham Farr. That was Winslow Farr Jr.'s second wife. They were down in Mexico. That's where they established Zion down there with all the people, and all the polygamists normally went down there to try to get things going for a colony. Anyway, what happened was Susan Melvina became very sick and ill. She had an appendix problem. And here's the story as it was written. Melvina Bingham Farr became very ill. It was November of 1903, and I, Heber, was the oldest child, and I was my mother's greatest helper. I decided I'd better take her to the hospital in El Paso, Texas, which was 150 miles away, and this was by wagon on a dirt road. Can you imagine her being in the wagon, sick, with appendix problem?
Down there, where are they coming from?
Colonial Dublin.
Oh, down in Mexico, okay.
In
thanks.
Mexico.
Thank you.
And he says he checked her into the hospital and then got a hotel room for himself. In the night, that same night, 2 angels appeared to him and told him, Heber, your mother needs to talk to you before she leaves. Heber quickly dressed, rushed her to her side. Her appendix had just ruptured. She asked him to please take care of the 4 children who were still at the home. And then she died in his arms. So Heber had to.
But I've never heard that story.
Heber had to put her back in the wagon and take her back to Dublin, where she was buried. But how's that? 2 angels appeared.
That's amazing.
So it's time to go
Beautiful.
back.
That's how thin the veil is. Oh, and especially,
And, yeah, Sandra
anybody-
can live, and so can
Lisa.
Lisa.
yeah,
'Cause-
any questions, please, fire them at Dwayne, okay?
Okay, good.
Okay, now what are you
Anyway.
gonna talk about next?
Winslow Farr Jr., he was born in May of 1837. He was born 5 years after Winslow Farr and Olive had joined the church, so he was born in the covenant. He was the oldest, he was the youngest of 6 children. There was a separation of about 11 years between he was the youngest, between his next sibling. And that was due to the miraculous healing of Olive that Winslow came to be in our lives. He was born, and at the age of 1 year old, he sat on the prophet Joseph Smith's lap and was blessed by the prophet, taught, and the prophet read scriptures to the family as little Winslow Farr Jr. sat on his lap. Winslow Farr Jr. traveled with the family through all the persecution, all the trials, to all the different states. 8 years old, he was baptized, Winslow Farr Jr., in Nauvoo by his dad. And from there, a year later, they went to winter's quarters to help prepare to get ready to go into the Salt Lake Valley. But Winslow Farr Sr. was called on a mission, so the family, Olive, Diantha, and Winslow Farr Jr. all stayed at winter quarters. The other siblings had traveled to Salt Lake Valley. So they stayed there and helped other families get on their way. Can you imagine the excitement? Winslow Farr Jr. being 8 years old, 9 years old at the time.
Running along the wagon.
Running along, helping them get their stuff packed in the wagons.
This is fun.
All of these families.
Yeah, they came in September of 1847.
50, yeah. You mean the winter's quarters?
You're talking about, well, I'm talking about Aaron and Lauren.
Yeah, they came.
And they
in
were
47.
delayed, right, because of
Dad had
Winslow had gone back, he, not only on a mission, but see if he could sell some of his acreage, 2,000
that's
acres
right.
back there,
That's right.
which he didn't get, obviously.
Hardly got
money's worth.
anything for it because they had a ploy, but
Yeah.
anyway, so so that's when in 1850 their name came up and they came to the valley. So Winslow Farr Jr. at the age of 13 now, he was he walked
Carpet shoes.
Well, he walked barefoot. I'm sure when he was at winter's quarters he had shoes, but there was probably children that came through that didn't have them, and he says, "Oh, I'm a ways down the road." But when his name came up to go, he didn't have any shoes. He walked barefoot. He wrapped his feet in burlap now and then when they got so blistered and thorns and rocks. But he drove a team of oxen all the way. And that's when they arrived in September of 1850 into the valley.
Yeah, because they were delayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And they developed
What company
that.
was that?
Hmm?
What company was that?
Starts the Gardner Snow Company. Gardner Snow Company. And
Relatives.
yeah, they got to the valley, and that's when Winslow Farr Sr. bought the land up in Big Cottonwood Canyon. Winslow Farr Jr. being the youngest, and the rest of them, his siblings, had their lives going on and marriages that he remained with his mom and dad and farmed the land and cleared it and planted crops there in Big Cottonwood Canyon. So he did that for 4 or 5 years. And finally he went on a travel expedition down to southern Utah, and that's where he met his first wife, Emily Jane Covington. The Covington family is a well-known family down there. Had a lot of cotton and farming, dry farming. So since he was an expert in that, he helped them all out down there for a season or so. Finally fell in love with Emily Jane. And that's her picture of Emily Jane Covington.
Don't have a big expanded picture, sorry.
When they married her down in Washington County down there, and then they traveled back up to Ogden. As soon as they got up to Ogden, they were called by the church to go establish the city of Paradise, Utah. Ever been to Paradise?
I live there.
Is that one of the towns if you blink when you're driving?
Oh,
you go through it?
if you ever get a chance, it's up before you get to Logan.
Oh,
And
yeah.
It's
yeah.
and the place
South
is
of Hiram, but about, what, 5-10 miles?
beautiful little city, you know. You can see how it developed. And as you go along the road, there's the whole hillside is there. And Emily Jane and Winslow got into a dugout. That was their home, dug in inside the hill. As you go along that road, you look and say, I can see dugouts that were in that hillside. And there, Emily and Winslow, they had children in that dugout. They had not just one, they had 3 children.
They were there 4 or 5 years? Or?
Yeah, 4 years there.
And Lauren had asked him to go to Cache Valley, right?
Yeah, to establish that.
Okay.
So they created a family there. They had bought some land, worked it. He became on type of school boards and became a real well-known family. And it's a great picture of Winslow.
I love
Farr
that
Family.
picture of him.
That is a good one of it.
Okay, so where did he have those instincts for serving on city councils and school boards and, in the governance of, where did he get that from?
I think he got it from his siblings. I think Lauren was a big factor, and I think his
Yeah.
His
being
dad was
Ezra.
too.
and
But
Elijah.
originally,
And his grandpa.
Winslow,
Winslow, yeah.
because Winslow was a town selectman,
That's right.
Elijah was
like
too.
a city councilman.
Wasn't Elijah also on the city council?
I'm sorry?
Elijah, wasn't he also on the city council?
Yeah, he had,
Elijah Freeman?
yeah, they called him, it had something to do with taxes. I
Yeah.
can't think of the name.
Yeah, I
It's,
can't either.
I don't know, if you.
Magistrate or
Have
something?
you read this book?
Mm.
We have it available. If you don't, you can order it on our website. It's all about, the Farrs in Vermont, and then coming west and, a little bit on the Utah era. So, in any event. And then,
Then they sold their farm
Okay.
and decided to move back to Ogden. And when they did that, that's when they moved on 20th and Washington, just kitty corner from Temple Square in Ogden. We'll see that on the side on Saturday on the bus tour. But that's when the plural marriage came in effect, and he met Susan Melvina Bingham, my great-grandmother, Sandra's. And that's where he met, because like I said, the Binghams were a big name there and a great family.
now who did you say, who was the last wife that you were talking about?
Susan Melvina Bingham.
So didn't he have to wait a while before he married her?
Because she was young.
I don't know.
Yeah, he
Yes,
worked
she
for
was.
the Binghams.
Oh,
And he
yes.
had kind of, she was like indentured until she got a certain age.
Whoa. Yeah, some of them were young.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they say about brides in Idaho? Before the reception, they have to burp them. Okay.
So they just married Susan Melvina Bingham.
Yeah, here,
And
this.
that's when then Emily Jane and Susan Melvina Bingham, they became close, almost like sisters.
Yeah, they,
At times, they had to take care of each other's children for certain reasons, illnesses.
right.
One of them couldn't nurse, so Susan Melvina nursed one of Emily's child,
I
or
believe
vice
so.
versa, one or the other. Great little family, because they both had babies at the same time. They were close sister, great families, and Winslow Farr Jr. was very happy that he had two that were got along so well.
Yeah.
Didn't talk
Ooh,
much
that could
about
be
his
a
third
problem.
one. But he had a wonderful life with it. Then he married Matilda, the third wife. And she was a little bit more domineering, and she required Winslow Farr Jr. to be there all the time.
High maintenance?
Yeah, when Winslow Farr Jr. would be visiting, he tried to share his time between all of them. But as soon as he'd leave Matilda's place and go to another one, Matilda would call and say, "Hey, we got a child sick, you need to come back." And he would. So she was a little bit wanting him all the time.
Wait, look at her expression.
There's Matilda.
What do you think, like,
You could see that. Huh?
don't forget me?
It's because she thought she was the most beautiful out of all of them.
Yeah.
And
Mirror,
so
mirror
she-
on the wall.
Yeah, and high maintenance and wanted all the nice stuff. And Winslow Farr Jr. said, "No, you want with the same as everyone else. Everybody gets the same."
He was visiting her in Salt Lake when Susan O'Leary passed away.
Yeah, and she probably learned a lot in polygamy. She probably grew from the experience.
So he had Matilda, and they had a number of children too. I can't remember the total. I know they had 31 children total. Winslow Farr Jr.
Wow.
with all of his wives. But and then Winslow Farr Jr. did serve a mission. Oh well, when he came back from Paradise, came to Ogden, he had some children, but they called him on a mission back to Liverpool, England. So he left for 2 years.
Like those whiskers?
And then, that's right, yeah. That's, and then he married his fourth wife, that was Sarah Ann Mitchell Graham. And she had a Farr's Canker Medicine Company here, just kitty corner from Temple Square in Salt Lake. And he married her, and he loved to work with her because he was a genealogist, and they attended the temple almost every day with Warren Farr, his brother. So his last, he said 8 or 9 years was spent for temple.
They did. We had a little record, don't we?
Yeah.
It's thousands. I mean, they did a lot of names.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, you know, with the records they had and what they had to do to get those names.
Yeah.
He was bishop for 31 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During that time, he was in prison. When he was released for plural marriage, he finally gave himself up. He went to Mexico for a couple of years and finally decided enough of that. Paid the $300 fine,
Yeah.
gave himself up, and went to prison for 6 months.
Yes.
Made canes there. When he got out of prison, the ward had a great big old homecoming party for him at a meeting house for their bishop, and it was in the paper and everything.
Oh, cool.
Big hero coming home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that church
He-
house where
Like
the
a martyr.
bishop stood,
Yeah.
told us a
Was
few
it
years
Ogden?
ago.
Yeah, it was on Taylor, actually.
Taylor.
On Taylor, West Ogden.
Yeah, he had 80 acres out there, but
And George Buchanan was in prison with him and, you know, a
Yeah.
bunch of others.
Yeah, that,
Lauren
Good-
Farr
good
escaped.
company.
He had better attorneys.
I think he paid off.
yeah, they got kind of a famous picture out.
yeah,
Went, what was it, Salt City Jail?
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. They have this big poster up, a photo of them. All these guys that were in jail for
We've got
polygamy.
that, yeah.
And
All in their
Donald
stripes.
Farr stood up in the back, one of the tallest, and then George Buchanan was in front. And then, who was it? He was an autograph book. Oh, it was her Wilma, and
Mhm.
gave us a copy of the
I don't have
autographs
that
and that he
picture.
got while he was in prison.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
My
I think
favorite
that was
story of him
available.
is when he was born, his father's wedding ring would fit over his fist. And yet he grew to be 6'4".
Yeah, they
He's
said his
6'5".
mother's
He was the
wedding ring
biggest
would
guy,
fit
man.
over his.
Lauren was only 5'10".
And they kept him in a
Brother, let's go to
teacup.
the temple.
I know, seriously? How
He was only
that's
5'10".
Amazing.
And,
And yet he was so little, they
so
kept him warm near
but
the
Winslow
oven.
was the bodyguard for Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Winslow Farr Jr., he was a peacekeeper among men.
And among the Indians.
Among the Indians.
He was an interpreter,
Interpreter.
and they relied on him
Yeah.
to help
Anytime
keep
there
the
was Indian
peace.
trouble, they would go get Winslow Farr and say, hey, we need to help resolve this situation, so.
And, you know, he had a big presence because he was
Yeah,
big.
guy, yeah.
And also tell him about certain talents he had.
Just the violin.
Oh, yeah.
Fiddler, right?
He made furniture.
Oh, you made furniture.
Like to work
But he
there
just
with.
loved to play the violin, and he played it at all kinds of dances, weddings. He was well known for that, and he played that all
Banjo
the
as well?
time.
Or was it
It's a
just
banjo. Well, it was the violin, but
Yeah.
Great musician, everybody wanted him to
They
play
wanted him to play.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made,
There's the
he
Utah
made
Prison
canes. In
Museum.
fact, I think George Buchanan has one of these canes. He made all the willows around the prison. And he made placemats that had
The preacher's wives.
the wife's initials in them. And there's still, some of the family has that.
And he had a good sense of humor, and when Lauren was being born, there was some question about whether he'd make it. And Elijah Freeman was kind of a steadying force. If there was a family prophet, he would be one of them because of what he saw about the restoration of the gospel. Now, Elijah Freeman, father of Winslow Sr., father of Lauren and Winslow Jr.
Yeah, I have a bunch of train ticket stubs that that Grandma Chloe collected. I got in a scrapbook, and it was, Lauren used to give them passes on the train backward, so I got some of those.
That's cool.
Okay, well, let's go back a little bit to when all these children came to Kirtland. What did they first see when they were coming in
To Kurt.
on the valley? 1837. What stood out about Kirtland from a distance? Kind of glimmered in the sun. The temple. And the sisters had broken up their china and was part of the mortar of the temple. And they wanted to rush ahead, but Winslow and Molly said, the temple will still be there when we get there. Anyway, Lauren and Aaron were thrilled. They were older now. Winslow wasn't as aware, but he's got to know the prophet like other people because it was a smaller community. But in any event, Lauren and Aaron went ahead to Far West when things fell apart in Kirtland in 1837, and there was the financial panic. And the Kirtland bank stock and real estate went to pot. And so there were several of the brethren that apostatized at that time because they thought, well, if we lost this money, he can't be a prophet. That's where their hearts were. But thankfully, our Farr family, to a person, right down to the youngest, stayed faithful to the prophet. They knew he was a prophet. And they didn't have any money anyway. And so they lived in a wagon in Far West when they got out there. But Winslow, Aaron, and Lauren went ahead, and Lauren stayed with Emma and Joseph. And she would often refer to Lauren as her boy, He was a bodyguard to the prophet. He listened to the prophet teach. He would later tell Tierro Pardo, his grandson at Stanford, Brother Pardo knew him and wrote that book, Lauren Farr Pioneer, which has got marvelous stories. And you can get it still through our website, okay? And we took a lot of stories for Lauren Farr, Mormon Statesman. But it was just, when you look, and we're not going to obviously go through all of them, but just a few things in Far West. He was with the prophet and Aaron, going to Adamon-Diamond. What's significant about that?
It's the gathering place.
That's going to be the gathering place, right? Where Adam will have a great priesthood meeting. And I don't know, have you been on a tour and seen the valley of Adamon-Diamond?
Oh, yeah.
It is just amazingly beautiful. And at one time, the state of Missouri wanted to make a lake out of that.
Oh, no.
We're gonna build a dam.
And so the church sent out some BYU geologists to prove to them why that lake would not work and it would fail. And so eventually the church, purchased that. But in the beginning, you think, amazing, Lauren, Aaron, brothers of Winslow Jr. were able to go through that situation of seeing, they called it Spring Creek at the time, I believe, and you know, seeing the settlement out there, helping people get settled. And then they were with the prophet during the Hans Mill massacre, which was a terrible, terrible thing, in Crooked River. And who lost his life there? The first martyr of this generation. Remember the name of that prophet, of that apostle? David Patton. He was a martyr, 1838 at Crooked River. And later, it's very interesting, a convert of William Clayton, and this is all on our website under Family History Quotes.
Yes, we
And so
are.
it's, huh?
Yes, we are.
You are.
Yeah,
But
we
did
are.
you get any of the stock?
Are they called the,
Yes, we have the stock.
Do you?
And we get ice cream for half price.
Okay, so you can take us across there and, you know, treat us.
I don't know, last time I tried to do that
It
with a
didn't
bunch
work,
of people,
okay.
they told me that that was only for my family.
Oh, sure. But can't you tell them we're far?
Yeah.
So I got in trouble.
You belong to Dexter?
What?
You belong to Dexter?
It's like when I went down to Vegas one time, my other line extends into Elvis Presley. I went to the Elvis Presley Museum, and I said, lady, I says, do I get half price because I'm a relative of Elvis? She says, you know what, everybody tries it. Go ahead, give it. I'm thinking, everybody? I can show you.
but this is
She
real.
says, I don't care. Everybody tries that. It was just so funny.
Yeah, there are so many Farrs that they would run out of money if they gave them all free ice cream. Okay,
Well,
well,
we've definitely contributed to their coffers.
pardon me?
We've definitely contributed to their coffers.
Oh, yeah, we have. It's great ice cream. Anyway.